You are listening to HOA Busted. Let me explain what happened. Stop right there. You cannot park that car here. This is a violation. I am standing in my own driveway in Palm Springs, California, holding my phone, and Heather Roberts is shouting at two guests who just pulled up to check in. She is wearing a crimson blazer and a lanyard with the Sandbar Cove HOA logo, and she is filming them with her phone like they are committing a crime. I moved to this townhome community 6 months ago because I wanted a fresh start and a safer street, and I work as a contractor estimator, so stable housing and predictable costs matter. But this HOA is a nightmare. Every car and visitor gets reported. Heather is a board member who runs the portal, and she has made it her personal mission to enforce every rule, real or imagined. Right now, she is claiming I am running an illegal short-term rental, and she is doing it in front of my guests at the curb with a camera. My ability to keep my home financially stable is on the line. Heather, these are my guests. They have a reservation. This is legal. She does not even look at me. Good luck fighting the HOA. We protect property values. She taps her phone screen and turns back toward the sidewalk. Your guests need to leave, or I will call a tow truck. You are in violation of covenant restrictions. One of my guests, a woman in her 30s with a weekend bag over her shoulder, gives me a confused look. Is this for real? I nod and step between her and Heather. Yes, it is real. Come inside. I will handle this. Heather spins around. I have already submitted a report to the board. You will receive a notice within 24 hours. Daily fines start immediately. I watch her walk away, lanyard swinging. My chest is tight. I knew the HOA was strict, but I never thought they would go this far. I have a city-approved short-term rental license, and the HOA approved my rental exception last year in writing. I have the email saved. But Heather does not care about that. She wants me gone. Inside, I show my guests to the living room and apologize. They are understanding, but I can see the doubt in their eyes. One of them, a man named Eric, asks if this is going to be a problem all weekend. I hope not. I have everything documented. The city license, the HOA approval, all of it. But I am going to need to stay on top of this. Eric nods slowly. If you need a witness, let me know. I filmed her yelling at us from the sidewalk. That stops me. You did? He pulls out his phone and shows me a short video. Heather is pointing and shouting about violations, and you can hear her say good luck fighting the HOA. It is perfect. I save a copy to my cloud and thank him. This might be exactly what I need. The next morning, a certified letter arrives. It is from the Sandbar Cove HOA, and it is 3 pages long. The first page says I am in violation of community covenants prohibiting commercial use. The second page lists a daily fine schedule starting immediately, $200 per day until I cease all short-term rental activity. The third page demands that I change locks and prove I live there full-time or face a lien. I read it twice, and my hands shake. A holiday weekend is starting. I have 3 more bookings coming in, and if I cancel, I lose thousands of dollars and my reputation on the platform tanks. I call the management company. The woman on the phone is polite but useless. Sir, if the board has issued a violation notice, you need to respond in writing and request a hearing. The hearing will be scheduled within 30 days. 30 days? I have guests checking in this weekend. I understand, but that is the process. I hang up and pull out the binder I started last year when I applied for the rental exception. Every email, every form, every piece of paper is tabbed by date. The approval email from the HOA is right there, dated 11 months ago, signed by the board secretary. It says my short-term rental use is approved under the revised commercial activity clause as long as I maintain a city license and adhere to noise and parking rules. I scan it and email it to the management company with a subject line that says Response to Violation Notice, along with a copy of my city license. Then I text Eric and ask if he is willing to share his video if this goes to a hearing. He replies in under a minute. Absolutely. That woman was out of line. I feel a little steadier. I have proof. I have a witness. I have the rules on my side. But I also know Heather is not going to back down just because I sent an email. That afternoon, my second set of guests arrives. They park in my driveway, and within 10 minutes, Heather is back. This time she has a clipboard and she is taking photos of their car, their license plate, and the suitcases they are unloading. I step outside. Heather, stop. You are harassing my guests. She does not even look up. I am documenting violations. This is my job as a board member. Your job is to enforce rules that exist. I have approval for this. I sent the email to the management company this morning. She finally looks at me, and her smile is cold. We protect property values. Your approval was conditional, and you violated the conditions. You will hear from our attorney. What conditions? She taps her clipboard. Noise complaints, parking overflow, excessive guest turnover, all documented. I stare at her. There have been no noise complaints, no parking overflow, no issues at all. She is making this up. Prove it, she says, and walks away. That night, I pull up the HOA portal and search for any complaints filed against my address. There are none. Not one. I screenshot the empty results page and add it to my binder. Then I check the city noise complaint database. Also empty. Heather is lying, and she is doing it in writing. I call my friend who used to serve on an HOA board in Nevada. He listens to the whole story and then says, "She is setting you up for selective enforcement. If she is changing the story every time you push back, that is retaliation. Document everything and do not engage with her directly. Only communicate through the management company in writing." I take his advice. I draft a formal response to the violation notice, attach all my evidence, and send it certified mail to both the management company and the board president. I also file a complaint with the city office about HOA harassment and request confirmation that my rental license is valid and in good standing. The city replies within 2 hours. Your license is current and compliant. If your HOA is claiming otherwise, they may be misinformed. I forward that email to the management company and CC the entire board. Friday morning, the holiday weekend starts. My third booking checks in without incident, but at noon, a flatbed tow truck pulls up and parks sideways across my driveway. The driver gets out and walks toward my front door. I open it before he can knock. What is going on? He looks uncomfortable. I got a call from the HOA. They said there is an illegally parked vehicle blocking access. I point to my driveway. That is my guest's car. It is parked in my driveway, on my property. He glances at his phone. The work order says the HOA requested removal of a vehicle in violation of community parking rules. Let me see the work order. He shows me his phone. The request came from Heather Roberts. It lists my address and claims the vehicle is parked in a fire lane. I take a photo of his screen. That is a lie. There is no fire lane here. This is my private driveway. He shrugs. I just go where they tell me. If you want to dispute it, you need to talk to whoever called it in. I call the towing company directly and ask to speak to a supervisor. The supervisor listens and then puts me on hold. When he comes back, he sounds annoyed. Sir, we are canceling the work order. The HOA representative did not provide proof of authority to request a tow from private property. We apologize for the inconvenience. I thank him and hang up. The driver gets back in his truck and leaves. My guests are standing in the doorway, wide-eyed. Eric is filming again. Did you get that? I ask. Every second, he says. Heather appears at the end of the driveway, lanyard swinging. She looks furious. You are in violation of guest vehicle limits. There is no guest vehicle limit, I say. And you just tried to have a car towed from my own driveway with a fake fire lane claim. That is illegal. She steps closer. We protect property values. You are running a hotel, and that is not allowed. I have approval. I have the email. I have the city license. You are the one breaking the rules. Good luck fighting the HOA, she says, and walks away. I warned the board I had the paper trail. I sent the email. I filed the complaint. But she is not stopping. That afternoon, I get another email from the management company. The board has scheduled an emergency hearing for Monday at 6 in the evening at the clubhouse conference room. I am required to attend. If I do not, the fines will continue to accrue and a lien will be placed on my property. Monday is 3 days away. I spend the weekend organizing my evidence. I print every email, every screenshot, every city document, every approval letter. I tab them by date in a binder with a table of contents. Eric agrees to attend the hearing as my witness, and he sends me the full video file of Heather confronting us at the curb. On Sunday, neighbors start posting vague accusations on the community Facebook page. Someone claims there is excessive traffic at my address. Someone else says there is loud music at all hours. Another post says they saw strangers loitering. None of it is true, and none of them name me directly, but everyone knows who they are talking about. I screenshot every post and add them to the binder. Sunday night, I get a text from an unknown number. It says, "You should leave before this gets worse." No signature. I screenshot it and add it to the binder. Monday at 6, I walk into the clubhouse conference room. Heather is already there, sitting at the head of the table in her crimson blazer and lanyard. 2 other board members are with her, both older men in polo shirts. The management company representative is on a laptop screen via video call. Eric is sitting in the back row with his phone ready. I sit down and place my binder on the table. Heather starts without introduction. This hearing is to address ongoing violations of community covenants by the homeowner at Unit 73. The violations include unauthorized commercial activity, excessive guest traffic, parking violations, noise complaints, and failure to comply with board directives. We are recommending immediate cessation of all short-term rental activity and a lien if compliance is not achieved within 7 days. I open my binder. I have documentation that refutes every single claim you just made. She does not look at me. The board has reviewed the evidence and made its decision. You have not reviewed my evidence, I say. You have not even asked to see it. One of the other board members, an older man with a gray mustache, shifts in his seat. What evidence do you have? I hand him the binder. Tab 1 is the HOA approval email from last year. Tab 2 is my city license. Tab 3 is the email from the city confirming my license is valid. Tab 4 is a screenshot of the HOA portal showing 0 complaints against my address. Tab 5 is a screenshot of the city noise complaint database showing 0 complaints. Tab 6 is the photo of the fake tow truck work order claiming a fire lane violation. Tab 7 is Eric's video of Heather confronting my guests at the curb. Tab 8 is the text thread I received last night. Tab 9 is a timeline of every interaction I have had with Heather, cross-referenced with her changing accusations. The board member flips through the tabs slowly. Heather's jaw tightens. You approved my rental exception last year, I continue. The email is signed by your board secretary. It says I can operate a short-term rental as long as I maintain a city license and follow noise and parking rules. I have done both. There have been no legitimate complaints. Heather has fabricated every single violation, and I can prove it. Heather stands up. This is a waste of time. The board has the authority to revoke approvals at any time if conditions are violated. What conditions? I ask. Name one condition I violated. She opens her mouth, then closes it. The room is silent. The management company representative speaks from the laptop screen. If the homeowner has documentation showing compliance with the original approval terms, the board may need to reconsider the violation notice. Heather glares at the screen. We protect property values. This is about maintaining the character of the community. This is about selective enforcement, I say. You tried to have my guest's car towed with a fake fire lane claim. You confronted my guests at the curb and told them to leave. You filed a violation notice the same day I moved in my first guests, even though I had approval for 11 months with no issues. You changed your story every time I provided evidence. This is retaliation, and it is illegal. The second board member, a man in his 60s with a polo shirt, leans forward. Heather, did you request a tow from his driveway? She hesitates. There was a parking issue. I hold up the photo of the work order. The towing company supervisor confirmed there was no fire lane and canceled the order. Heather lied to the towing company. The older board member with the mustache closes the binder and slides it back to me. I think we need to table this and review the documentation more carefully. Heather's face goes red. We cannot let him turn this community into a hotel. He is not running a hotel, the board member says. He has a license and approval. If we move forward with fines and a lien without cause, we are opening ourselves up to a lawsuit. Heather looks at the management company representative. Can they do this? The representative looks uncomfortable. If the homeowner has proof of compliance and prior approval, continuing enforcement could be considered arbitrary or retaliatory. I would recommend the board consult with legal counsel before proceeding. Heather sits down hard. Her lanyard swings forward and she shoves it back. If you are enjoying this story, please hit the like button and subscribe for more real HOA drama. I stand up. I also filed a complaint with the city about HOA harassment. They have a copy of everything in this binder. If you continue with fines or a lien, I will file a formal complaint with the state and pursue legal action for defamation, harassment, and abuse of authority. The room is quiet. Heather stares at the table. The board member with the mustache nods. We will suspend the violation notice pending legal review. No fines will be assessed, and no lien will be filed. I pick up my binder. Thank you. Eric stands up in the back and gives me a thumbs up. Heather does not look at either of us. Outside, Eric claps me on the shoulder. You destroyed her. I hope so, I say. But I am not counting on it being over. The next morning, I get an email from the management company. The board has voted to suspend all enforcement actions related to short-term rental use at my address pending review by HOA legal counsel. No timeline is given. I forward the email to my attorney friend in Nevada. He replies, "That is code for they know they screwed up, and they are hoping you will let it go. Do not let it go. File a formal complaint with the state HOA Oversight Board and request a declaratory judgment that your approval is valid and binding." I follow his advice. I file the complaint and request the judgment. The state board replies within a week. They have opened an investigation and requested all documentation from the Sandbar Cove HOA board. 2 weeks later, I get a certified letter from an attorney representing the HOA. It says the board has reviewed my documentation and determined that the original approval remains in effect. All fines are rescinded. The lien threat is withdrawn. The letter also includes a formal apology for any inconvenience and a statement that the board will implement new training for board members on proper enforcement procedures. There is no mention of Heather, but the next time I check the HOA portal, her name is no longer listed as a board member. I call Eric and tell him the news. He laughs. "Good luck fighting the HOA," he says, mimicking Heather's voice. Guess she needed her own luck. I hang up and look around my living room. The guests checking in this weekend will have no idea any of this happened. The city license is still valid, the HOA approval is still in effect, and I still have my home. But I also know this could have gone the other way. If I had not kept the emails, if I had not documented every interaction, if Eric had not filmed that first confrontation, I might have lost everything. The HOA was counting on me being too scared or too broke to fight back. They were wrong. I open my laptop and start drafting a post for the community Facebook page. I keep it short and factual. I explain that the board suspended the violation notice after reviewing my documentation. I thank everyone who supported me. I do not name Heather, but I do not have to. Everyone already knows. The post gets 40 likes in an hour. 3 neighbors send me private messages saying they are dealing with similar issues and asking for advice. I send them copies of my evidence checklist and the contact information for the state HOA Oversight Board. A week later, I get a call from the board president. He is polite and apologetic. He says the board wants to move forward in a positive direction and asks if I would be willing to serve on the Community Standards Committee to help revise the short-term rental policies. I think about it for a minute. Then I say yes, not because I trust them, but because I want to make sure this does not happen to anyone else. The first committee meeting is awkward. 2 of the board members who were at the hearing are there, along with 3 other homeowners. Heather is not there. No one mentions her. We spend 2 hours going through the existing covenant language and identifying ambiguities. I point out that the current rules do not define commercial activity, do not specify what counts as excessive guest turnover, and do not outline a clear process for requesting exceptions. The board president agrees to draft revised language and circulate it for feedback. By the end of the meeting, I feel cautiously optimistic. It is not perfect, but it is progress. Over the next few months, I continue renting out my townhome without incident. My bookings stay steady. My guests leave good reviews. No one films them at the curb. No tow trucks show up. I see Heather once, at the mailboxes. She does not say anything. She just grabs her mail and walks away. Her lanyard is gone. I do not gloat. I do not say a word. I just go back to my unit and get ready for the next check-in. Because at the end of the day, I won. Not because I yelled louder or played dirty, but because I kept my receipts and refused to back down when someone tried to abuse their power. And that is something Heather will never understand. A few months after the hearing, I get a message from Eric. He is planning another trip to Palm Springs and asks if my place is available. I check the calendar and tell him I have an opening. He books it immediately. In the message thread, he says, "I want to stay at the place that made HOA history." I laugh and send him a thumbs up. When he arrives, we sit on the patio and he tells me he has been following the HOA drama groups online and keeps seeing stories like mine. He asks if I ever thought about starting a blog or a channel. I tell him I have thought about it, but I am not sure anyone would care. He shakes his head. People care. Everyone has an HOA horror story. Yours just happens to have a happy ending. I think about that. Maybe he is right. Maybe there is value in sharing what I learned, not just the drama but the process, how to document everything, how to stay calm when someone is screaming at you, how to find the receipts that prove you are right. I tell Eric I will think about it. He grins and says, "Let me know. I will be your first subscriber." A week after Eric checks out, I get an email from a local news blog. They heard about the HOA situation through a public records request and want to interview me. I agree, and the story runs the following Monday. It is fair and factual. It includes quotes from the board president about the new policies and a statement from the management company about improved training. Heather is not named, but the article references a former board member who resigned after the incident. The story gets shared a few hundred times. I get messages from people in other states asking for advice. Some of them are dealing with worse situations than I was. I send them the same checklist I sent my neighbors and encourage them to file complaints with their state oversight boards. One woman in Arizona tells me her HOA tried to fine her for parking her own car in her own driveway. Another man in Texas says his HOA demanded he remove a vegetable garden from his backyard. A couple in Florida says their HOA is threatening a lien because they painted their front door the wrong shade of white. Every story makes me angrier, but it also makes me more determined. Because this is not just about me, it is about a system that gives petty authoritarians power over people's homes and lives, and it is about fighting back when that power is abused. I start a simple website, nothing fancy, just a page with resources, a contact form, and a blog where I post updates. I write about my case, but I also write about the legal strategies that worked and the mistakes I made along the way. The site gets a few hundred visitors in the first month, then a few thousand. People start sending me their stories, and I post the ones that have clear documentation and happy endings. One day, I get an email from a lawyer in California who specializes in HOA disputes. She says she has been following my site and wants to collaborate on a guide for homeowners. I agree, and we spend the next few weeks drafting a step-by-step resource that covers everything from reading your covenants to filing a complaint with the state. We release the guide as a free download, and it gets picked up by a few HOA reform advocacy groups. Within a month, it has been downloaded over 10,000 times. I am not making money from any of this. I am still working as a contractor estimator, and I am still renting out my townhome. But I am also doing something that feels important. I am helping people who feel powerless stand up to bullies who hide behind bureaucracy. And every time I get a message from someone who says they won their case because of the checklist or the guide, I think about Heather and her lanyard and her smug smile, and I know it was all worth it. 6 months after the hearing, I attend a community meeting. The board is presenting the revised short-term rental policy. The new language is clear and specific. It defines commercial activity. It outlines a transparent approval process. It includes a provision that prohibits board members from initiating enforcement actions against properties they have a personal conflict with. The policy passes unanimously. One of the homeowners in the back raises her hand and thanks the board for listening to feedback. Another homeowner asks if the board will consider applying the same transparency standards to other covenant enforcement areas. The board president says they are already working on it. I do not say anything during the meeting, but afterward the board president pulls me aside. He thanks me for serving on the committee and says the new policies would not have happened without my input. He also says he is sorry for what I went through. I nod. I appreciate that, but I also think it should not have taken a legal threat and a state investigation to get here. He does not argue. You are right. We have a lot of work to do. I leave the meeting feeling cautiously hopeful. The system is not fixed, but it is better than it was. And that is something. A few weeks later, I get a message from a woman in Nevada who read my blog and wants to share her story. Her HOA tried to foreclose on her home because of a disputed trash can fine. She fought back using the checklist I posted, and the foreclosure was stopped. She is now suing the HOA for abusive process. I post her story on the blog with her permission. It gets shared thousands of times. A local news station picks it up and does a segment on HOA abuse. The segment includes an interview with the lawyer I collaborated with on the guide, and she mentions my website. The traffic spikes. I get hundreds of new messages. Some are thank yous, some are requests for help. Some are horror stories that make my situation look tame. I do my best to respond to everyone. I send resources, I connect people with lawyers, I share strategies. And I keep posting stories of people who fought back and won. Because that is what this is really about. Not revenge, not schadenfreude, but proof that you can stand up to bullies, even when they have a gavel and a lanyard and a stack of covenants on their side. And every time I see a new story of someone who refused to back down, I think about that first day when Heather confronted my guests at the curb, and I remember how scared I was, how angry, how helpless. And I remember that I am not helpless, none of us are. We just have to keep our receipts and refuse to let them win. A year after the hearing, I get an email from the State HOA Oversight Board. They have completed their investigation into the Sandbar Cove HOA and issued a formal finding of selective enforcement and retaliatory conduct. The board is required to implement new governance training and submit quarterly compliance reports for the next 2 years. Heather is named in the report as the primary actor responsible for the violations. The report is public record. I post a link on my website with a short summary. The post gets shared widely, and I get dozens of messages from people who say they are going through the same thing and now have proof that they can fight back. One message stands out. It is from a man in Colorado who says his HOA tried to foreclose on his home because he refused to remove a solar panel. He used the guide I posted, filed a complaint with the state, and won. The foreclosure was stopped, and the HOA was ordered to revise its renewable energy policies. He ends the message with "Thank you for showing me I was not crazy. Thank you for giving me the tools to fight back." I read the message twice and then closed my laptop. I sit on my patio and watch the sun set over the desert. The air is warm and the sky is orange and pink, and for the first time in a year I feel like I can breathe. Because I did not just win my case, I helped other people win theirs. And that matters more than any apology letter or rescinded fine. I think about Heather and her lanyard and her smug certainty that she could break me with daily fines and tow truck threats. I think about her saying good luck fighting the HOA like it was a done deal. And I think about the moment in the hearing when I handed over the binder tabbed by date and watched her face go pale. That moment was not just about me. It was about everyone who has ever been bullied by someone with a clipboard and a power trip. It was about proving that documentation matters, that process matters, that you can win if you refuse to quit. And now, every time someone sends me a message saying they won their case, I get to relive that moment. I get to know that Heather's boomerang line came back and hit her exactly the way it should have. Good luck fighting the HOA. Turns out, I did not need luck. I just needed receipts. The website keeps growing. I add a forum where people can share their stories and ask questions. A few volunteer moderators step up to help manage the discussions. A lawyer in Oregon offers to host a monthly Q&A session. A former HOA board member in North Carolina writes a series of posts about how to advocate for policy changes from the inside. The site becomes a community, not just a resource, but a network of people who refuse to be bullied and who support each other through the process. I still work as a contractor estimator. I still rent out my townhome. I still live in the same community where Heather tried to destroy me. But now, when I walk to the mailboxes, neighbors wave. Some of them stop to chat. A few have told me they are grateful I fought back because it made the board more accountable. One neighbor, an older woman who lives 3 units down, tells me she was fined 2 years ago for planting flowers in the wrong color. She paid the fine because she did not think she had a choice. Now she knows she did. I tell her I am sorry that happened. I tell her the new policies are supposed to prevent that kind of thing. She nods and says, "It is good to know someone is watching." And that is the thing. Someone has to watch. Someone has to push back. Someone has to keep the receipts and refuse to let the bullies win. I did not ask for this fight. I just wanted a fresh start and a safer street. But the fight found me, and I am glad I did not walk away. Because now I know what I am capable of. And so does everyone who reads the stories on my site. We are not helpless, we are not alone, and we do not have to accept abuse just because it comes with a gavel and a lanyard. I still think about the tow truck standoff sometimes. The moment when I stood in my driveway and refused to let them take my guest's car. The moment when I called the supervisor and the driver got back in his truck and left. The moment when Heather's face went red and she realized she had overplayed her hand. That was the turning point. That was when I knew I could win. Not because I was louder or meaner or more powerful, but because I had the truth on my side and I was willing to fight for it. And every time someone sends me a message saying they stood up to their HOA and won, I think about that moment. I think about the fear and the anger and the determination. And I think about how it all paid off. Because the truth is, most bullies are cowards. They rely on fear and intimidation and the assumption that you will not fight back. But the second you do, the second you show them you have the receipts and the backbone to use them, they fold. Heather folded. The board folded. The management company folded. And now the system is a little bit better because I refuse to let them break me. I do not know what happens next. Maybe the website keeps growing. Maybe it stays small. Maybe I keep helping people one message at a time. Or maybe someone else takes over and does it better. But I know this. I did what I set out to do. I kept my home. I stood up to a bully. And I helped other people do the same. And that is enough. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.